businesses to add your value. Add a little value, make a lot of money, you know. And obviously, you have to keep waste to a minimum. And that includes compensation. When people are doing a small business or a startup and they expect investors to be involved, there's usually a sacrifice in, you know, investors don't want to see people going, all of a sudden, I've got money, now I raise money, I'm going to start paying myself, you know, $150,000 a year. It doesn't work, you know, so. Okay, one thing that investors are always concerned about is the cash burn rate of a company. Now, in this example, this is not the way to lower your cash burn rate. These people decided to just use smaller bills to put over the fire. But again, the cash burn rate is, you know, what we look for is, you know, especially in a new business, how long before the company turns? You know, you do out this, you're looking at the profit and loss statement, but more importantly, you're looking at the cash flow. And of course, we want to see somewhere where there's a probability this cash burn goes down. You don't have to keep investing, and the business starts to generate some cash, okay? And the burn rate tells the investors a lot. And you yourself, if you're going to get into something, you need to understand this, because you could otherwise put yourself in a very precarious position. You could go out and with the greatest of intentions, you believe what you're doing, you go mortgage your house, you tell your family and your kids we're going to eat beans and hot dogs, and you start off blindly and go do it, and then all of a sudden you find out, oh my God, I underestimated it all. And then what do, you know? So you do need to do as good a job as you can to try to size these things. Nobody's got a perfect crystal ball, okay? But you still have to make an attempt to do it, and do it on reasonable assumptions. Now, here's an example of use of capital. And this is important to investors who are looking over the long term. There are two companies, Company A and Company B. Both of these companies have annual revenue of $1 million. Both of these companies earn 10% profits. Let's assume that's after-tax profits, or $100,000, right? All other things being equal, which of those companies would you invest in? Don't know, right? I mean, I can't. How do you distinguish? Now what if I told you another little piece of information? For every dollar of revenue the company A generates, they have to invest 50 cents in capital. Capital being defined as what it costs to finance that business as it goes. Receivables, equipment, payroll, before they get the revenue. Company B only takes 25 cents for every dollar. Again, all other things being equal, market opportunity, all that other stuff. Which company would you invest in? You can invest in B. Why? Simple. Return on investment, while good for Company A at 20%, is twice as good. It's 40% for Company B. The point here is capital, understanding the capital needs of the business, understanding the business model and how it uses or generates, you know, cash is critical. And you're looking for, hopefully, an unfair advantage in that area as well. I mean, if at all possible. But certainly you want it to be very efficient, and more efficient than your competitors, because you can do things against your competitors just on that financial leverage. You can do it through pricing. You can do it through whatever, maybe, you know, other things. So what else so that's a key thing that investors look for. What else do they look for? You got to have a fair deal. If you go into a deal with investors, it's got to be fair for everybody. And one thing that scare an investor off, you know, if they sense that, hey, you're trying to be so protective of what you've got, and you know, you're not, you know, but they want your money, you know, you want their money, it doesn't usually work. It leaves a bad taste. It's got to be a win-win for everybody, including your employees, if you believe in the concept of, I come from an environment, and I think Rob does too, and others here, where we shared the wealth. You know, we had all employees from top to bottom of the company share in the ownership of the company, and they had an incentive to work hard and do the right thing. There's got to be hopefully room for future rounds of financing, okay, to invest more. That's not always necessary, but it's nice. And you know, you got to carve out. If this now, by the way, I probably should have said this. I've converted over to an equity kind of deal, by the way. Okay, not an income-oriented kind of deal necessarily. So usually there's got to be, in the capital structure of the company, an early on identification of how much is it going to take to put the stock option pool, what will the key employees have, what will the investors have, and it's got to be thought through. In evaluation, the investors don't want to invest in something that isn't comparable to some other company. So you got to have reasonable valuation expectations. A little story, and hopefully maybe some of you have seen this TV show. It's called The Shark Tank. Anybody seen that show on TV? It's my wife's favorite show, or one of her favorite shows. I have a little trouble with it, but I like it, okay? And what it is it's 5 very successful people, entrepreneurs, who have made a lot of money, and they sit, it's a great show in a way. They sit there behind these tables, and entrepreneurs or business people come to them with their ideas, and they stand up in front of them, and they give them the spiel, and they're trying to raise money, and then the individual investors tear them apart, unfortunately, but also they compete with each other for, if it's a good idea, they're competing with each other to invest in the company, right? And what I find is universally true on that show is these guys are greedy. And I don't mean the businessman, I mean the investors. They demand, every time they say they're going to write a check, and they know the power of their money, they know the poor business person who's really struggling, it needs the cash, right away, they're taking more than the majority of the company for equity, they demand an equity. I'm not saying that's always wrong, but that's the one thing I don't like about the show. I think sometimes they really take too much out of the hide of the entrepreneur. But it's an interesting show to watch if you actually want to see what it's like to go through a grilling. And they do it very quickly in a very short period of time. Obviously, it's TV. And the valuations are usually unrealistic. By the way, I meant to say the valuations by the entrepreneurs going to the investors are usually ridiculous. It's sad to say, but the people have no idea. They'll say, I want you to invest $100,000 in my company that's now worth $2 million, and they haven't even developed the product yet. It doesn't work most of the time. It just doesn't work. And of course, realistic exit strategy assumptions. Okay, what are the keys to success? Probably already know that. Patience, patience, patience. All this stuff takes longer. We'll give you copies of all this stuff. So by the way, you're going to get full copies. I see you all taking notes, but you're welcome to have everything that we presented here. Takes a lot longer than you expect. That's kind of universally true. There's very few exceptions, I think. Spend as you go. You're cash managers. Spend as you go. Don't get too far ahead of the curve. A lot of businesses get too far ahead of the curve. And what I mean by the curve is the sales tsunami. Everybody's always, there's the whole hockey stick. We talk about the hockey stick business plans. They start out no revenue, no revenue, no revenue, no revenue, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. Well, that's the hockey stick. We all see those in business plans. And there's a fine art of timing, of when to make that investment. And some of that comes with experience, gut feel, what you really know from the marketplace. And a lot of people misjudge that timing, and they invest way too much, way too soon. You're much better off to prove the business, whatever it is, on a small scale, get it going, get real customers, get a greater understanding of the market and the opportunity, and then if you see that it's big, or it's worth putting more fuel in, i.e. cash, you do it, and you do it judiciously. And there's no question, again, cash is more important than your mother. That's what the spot, I think you probably figured that out already, okay? So don't forget that. Okay. These guys, by the way, I don't know if you know who those are. I don't know if you would have invested in that company in 1978. That's Microsoft, 1978. Pretty scruffy looking people, right? And They were down, I think, I'm trying to remember, were they in Arizona or in New Mexico? I think they were in Albuquerque, New Mexico, in some cheap offices. Bill Gates is over on the left here, and this is Paul Allen over here, and I can't name all the others, but anyway, be a cheapskate. If you're a small businessman in this room, I'm sure you already are, and that's good. Here's an important thing. A lot of people try to go out and hire a whole complement of people, to fill the organization chart out. Don't do that. You don't need it. Have people, even me, when I was an accountant, by the way, obviously in starting out, but I went to companies that were growing fast, had big opportunity, and where I could do more than one job. So, I could take on all kinds of projects, do other things besides just accounting. Everybody's a player, coach. Everybody should be multitasking. Rob became a salesman. He was a technical leader of his company, but he became a salesman to make sure he understood the market. I mean, those are classic examples that are really, really important. And you want to be behind the curve on hiring, if at all possible. Cheap offices, cheap furniture, Motel 6, Coach, all that goes without saying. You don't need, in most businesses, you don't need a fancy operation to impress your customers. There's exceptions, but you can figure that out. But in most, you don't. So don't spend on stuff that's unnecessary. Oh, I got that nice walnut desk, and I feel really good here. You look out the window, I got a view. Forget it. Again, low salaries. Spend it on the company. What's important, not on yourself. Now, here's a classic thing. Simpson, you promised you wouldn't tell anybody I turned down Bill Gates. So this is the people laughing at the venture capitalists who turned down Bill Gates. I have stories I can tell you of stuff I've turned down, that are embarrassing, okay? What I would say about this slide, it happens to everybody. And if you're looking for money, it happens to everybody who's an investor. They turn down something that becomes significant. That's what this slide says. The flip side of this slide is you get turned down a lot. And you better be ready for it, okay? I think the venture capitalists live by the creed, nothing ventured, someone spurned. It's kind of, you think how many people get turned down? Go back to the ratio that I told you before. They look at, they probably fund, if that, 1 in 1,000 business plans. They're saying no a lot. And you better get used to it. And so you got to keep trying. It's tough. I know it's very difficult, but it's just the nature of the process.